He has been called the greatest of all time, a man known for his style and grace. He has $1 billion in the bank and a blonde goddess for a wife. So, why would the Tiger be so keen on a cocktail waitress or 10?
Good question. The golfing ace is the latest on a long list of high-profile men caught cheating on their life partners. So what's the story, and do we expect too much of marriage? Relationship expert and author Dr. Bella Elwood-Clayton joins us now. Good morning, Bella.
Good morning.
Well, poor old Tiger. I mean, you know, he's got needs. That'd be the argument of blokes, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a male or female question in some ways. People tend to cheat for similar reasons. They want to sort of regain a sense of autonomy that might have been lost in marriage, so that sense of being able to do what they want, when they want, and also to remove themselves from that sort of mundane, predictable lifestyle with one partner and get that utopian edge of, you know, fast life and hotels.
So even as a world-famous athlete, as you said, Quarters, with $1 billion, you know, he's the billion-dollar athlete. I mean, surely his situation is different from just the standard bloke who might be trying to get out of his humdrum life.
Well, indeed. With high-profile men, there's often a number of factors at play when they're looking for, when they want to indulge in infidelity. Perhaps a sense of narcissism, where they want to be reflected back from their other lover with as a sense of a grandiose, larger-than-life kind of self. And also the opportunities that they have and the amount of willing partners is unimaginable to the everyday person. Is
monogamy very difficult in modern society? You go back to when marriage first came in, people got married at 15 or 16, and we all died at 30. Yeah. We're talking hundreds of years ago, but that's when marriage...
or something.
So marriages were short. Now, of course, people live to 80, 90, and they're going to be married for 40, 50 years. So is monogamy very difficult in the modern time?
Absolutely. So, in terms of a historical perspective, marrying for love is really a relatively new idea. And those dual desires for stability as well as passion, it's incredibly hard to do. So we're ironing out the creases, and we've got a long way to go to find a satisfying, long-term, you know, situation for people.
People talk about these days marriage should be a contract that gets renewed. I mean, that's a load of bunk. I mean, once you're married, you're married. But there's no perfect system anymore, is there, given the fact that we have so much longevity? There
isn't, and it is very much a cultural situation. Perhaps, you know, if Tiger Woods was in France, it would be expected that he would have a number of mistresses. So we are looking at it from our cultural lens and judging it. And Alfred Kinsey in the 40s found out that the majority of people would cheat if their acts were never discovered. So there's a bit of sexual hypocrisy as well going on.
All right, well, what does it say then about Tiger that he hasn't just had a lover, you know, or a mistress here or there? They've been, you know, quite targeted by the sounds of it, and I think now up to 10 women are coming out saying they've had an affair over quite a long period of time. What does that say about him, that these weren't just, you know, a one-night fling?
Well, there are a number of types of affairs, and he's a philanderer of the different types that you can have. And I would imagine that there's a sense of him wanting to exert his power and to prove to himself and to others what a big man he is and how powerful he is.
You have to argue he already is, really. Yeah. I mean, in terms of power, he's already got it.
In the introduction, the last lady that was being quoted about monogamy raised a very good point about communication. We need to communicate our needs to our partners more. I mean, is that one of the great flaws in relationships? There's not enough communication?
No, I think there's too much communication in some ways.
Really?
Yeah.
Give us an example.
Well, I think actually, if you
Less talking and more action, is that what you're calling for?
Well, and more space between partners. You know, a lot of times what people have affairs because they're so intermeshed and they feel like the other person is so known to them. So if you can create, you know, your own world and your own sense of self, that creates a more exciting dynamic. And that's what keeps relationships alive with passion.
Ah, so you're saying...
Separation makes the heart grow fonder.
Neediness is not good.
No, absolutely not. No.
All right, well, what happens in a situation then like Tiger's to that relationship with Ellen, to his marriage, his primary relationship? What happens then? Is it a salvageable relationship?
That's not for me to say. It seems that with all these types of women, with many of the women who are in relationships with high-profile men that cheat in perhaps Canada and North Australia and America, because if you look outside of Europe, it's expected, and wider parts of Europe, women tend to stay with their philandering partner, and they have actually done so since the beginning of time.
So what does that say then about the mistress who then thinks that perhaps he's in love with her? Statistically, what do we know about those relationships?
I don't know what the outcome is of those types of relationships, but I do think that there's a tendency to go from one to the other and to have that sense of grandiose power fulfilled through engaging with a sexy young woman.
All right. So is it a false thing to say that only unhappy people cheat?
Certainly not. It's a cultural phenomenon more than an individualistic phenomenon. So if you look in Japan, for example, wives often put condoms in their husband's suitcase when they're traveling, and these are happy marriages. It's a cultural variation.
Yeah, I mean, can't imagine
Can you imagine
that?
No, you know, very hard for us to imagine.
Yeah. All right, well, very interesting. Thank you. Good to talk to you, Bella.
Thank you very much.
All right, let us know your thoughts. Home shopping time now.